What's going on, guys? This is Saturday Afternoon Wrestling on a Monday night, and it is a weird time to be talking about wrestling. That is for sure. In case you have missed it, it is arguably probably the biggest story in wrestling right now. Brock Lesnar returned to WWE on Sunday at SummerSlam Night 2 after 2 years of almost not even being mentioned as a result of his being named as a part of Vince McMahon's and WWE's sexual harassment and trafficking and abuse lawsuits that are going on right now. Everyone thought that Brock Lesnar was persona non grata, just not going to be mentioned again. And apparently, we were all wrong. It was apparently so. I don't even really know how to compartmentalize all my thoughts here to put it all together neatly and to explain everything. So, obviously, there were a lot of questions that came after that. Specifically, being, isn't he named 44 times in the lawsuit that Janelle Grant has filed against WWE and Vince McMahon? And that is true. He has not been charged with anything specific, but he has been named multiple times in the lawsuit and has been described as doing some pretty unflattering things, even if they weren't technically illegal. So now, as of Monday, the updated report is that WWE's legal team cleared him about a month ago, and that this has been in the works for that long. Triple H on Sunday night, as part of the post show that they're doing, which we'll get to that in a second too. He kind of implicated heavily that this was a John Cena decision, and that John Cena had specifically requested to work with him as part of his retirement tour, and as a facing all of the great people from his past and throughout his career. And I mean, I would say, the company has to at some point say no and put their foot down on things if they don't want the bad look that it might bring. But I think that this week has really crystallized in a lot of people that they don't care about how it looks or how it comes across. Because we had quite a few things back to back to back. There was, of course, a press conference or an interview that Triple H did earlier in the week before SummerSlam where he was asked about Vince McMahon and the lawsuits that were going on, and he kind of just said, yeah, that doesn't involve WWE, and that's not a WWE thing, and then just kind of laughed it off and went from there. And that's not true. WWE is a named plaintiff. I don't even know what to call it. They are named in the lawsuit. It's Vince McMahon and WWE being sued by Janelle Grant for everything going on, and for WWE essentially covering it up and allowing it to happen as long as it did. So right out of the bat, bad look. Then he is at the White House doing all sorts of publicity videos and TikToks and things. He's there for the signing of the new presidential fitness test being, mandated or signed into action. And, right now, politics, not the best thing. And you have all these lawsuits going on against Vince McMahon for the things that they are for. And then you consider everything going on in the world of politics, the Epstein list, and all of the talk of deflection and cover-ups and things. Obviously, this isn't a surprise because Linda McMahon is in Trump's cabinet. She is the Secretary of Education, believe it or not, if you are unfamiliar. And so it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise that he would go and do all of this because it's who he is. It's who the company is. The problem, the surprise, is that they would show it 3 or 4 times over SummerSlam weekend. I saw a couple clips that were filmed from the crowd that made it look like the screening of it got pretty loud boos in the stadium. But that's not going to stop them from doing it. It's not going to matter in the scheme of things. And all of it just feels I don't know. So they do that. Triple H does that whole press stuff, that easy deflection stuff for the president. And that, again, that would be enough to be wow, what a bad week in PR for WWE leading into one of their biggest shows of the year. But not done there, because on Saturday, in the middle of the show, basically, they kind of announced that they're done with the press conference style of post shows, and that going forward, all of the post shows will be WWE produced and featured WWE talent specifically. Now there were a lot of reports that the like post press conference things were pretty scripted as well, and that journalists that were there were given specific things that they could kind of ask about or not talk about. So this is just kind of like the going the rest of the way on this. It's all going to be only WWE produced from now on. And it was like, wow, that's an interesting decision. I wonder why they would do that. Like, obviously, they deflect the things they don't want to answer anyways. It's not like they've ever been held to the fire and forced to answer something unsavory. And then, we found out Sunday, because Brock Lesnar came out, and it was like, oh, that explains why they did not want people in this press conference that could potentially ask things. I don't think, honestly, anyone that would be given access to those would have done that, because I think we're seeing that there's a pretty fine line between people speaking up and people who want to make sure that they're protecting their access to WWE. And I've been trying to watch some of the coverage and things throughout the day, because it's been a busy weekend for me. I've been all over the place. I've been, I checked out SummerSlam. I wanted to record this sooner, wanted to do some other stuff as well, and just have not had the chance. And then, something like this happens, and it's like, God, the last thing I want to do is wade into this because of how just, like, I don't even know how to say it. Like, both sides are insane with this. Like, there's a side that's like, he's innocent until proven guilty, duh. And it's like, dude, well, you can read the 44 times he's mentioned. It's not like they're all great. It's not all a great look. Like, you're still kind of going to bat and carrying water for at least a sex pest. Maybe he's not assaulting people, but, like, it's not he's scot-free and everything. Plus, we had the resurfacing of Terry Runnels telling a story of him kind of, like, just, like, cornering her and exposing himself to her when they were both in the locker room years ago. That resurfaced again for some reason. And it's just, on the other side, it's people saying, like, this is it with WWE. Like, this is the breaking point. And I have kind of been thinking about that a lot over the last day or so since all of this went down. And, I do this because I enjoy it. I enjoy watching wrestling, and so it's like, well, I'm already going to be watching all of the wrestling between WWE and AEW. So, why not go a step further and talk about it and make videos about it, because it's something I enjoy doing. And in the vein of being something I enjoy doing, it's not fun to sit back and talk about those things that are not the fun wrestling things. Like, it gets too real from time to time, and it seems like now more than ever, WWE and TKO are really committed to going towards one particular audience, that UFC style audience, maybe a more conservative audience, maybe not as family oriented as before, which is odd because they're also going towards these 2-night destination vacation premium live events. So it's like they're wanting to do both things at the same time, and they're not focused on making everything fit cohesively together. And so they're alienating a lot of people in the process. And someone I watched last night, I think his name, I wish I had written it down, but I think his name, it was on TikTok, it was like Joey B-Boy or Bebop or Johnny B, something like that. It was a wrestling creator with a name similar to that, and he was basically saying, like, I don't really want to cover WWE anymore, but also, like, if I don't cover WWE, then this is just letting them continue to do things that I don't agree with. And I think that's a pretty good stance to have. It's weird to sit down and talk about fake wrestling when there are so many real world things happening around the industry that are so divisive and so blatantly at times disrespectful of part of the company's audience and part of the talent as well. I can't lie, my first thought when I heard Brock Lesnar's music at the end of SummerSlam Night 2 on Sunday night was not like, oh my god, they really brought him back. It was, oh my god, like, what do some of the women in that locker room think right now? Like, I don't know. And that might be white knighty of me to say. I really don't know, but like legitimately my first thought was like there are some people in that locker room that do not, I'm sure, agree with all of these decisions that WWE is making and that TKO is making for the direction of the company. Obviously it's bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're charging more and more, and the sponsorships are just going up and the commercials and everything is just bigger, but it comes to a point where, you know, your morals are on the line, and there's going to be things that come into direct conflict with what you believe in. And so I can only imagine for some of those stars to see the company just be like, okay, well, Brock Lesnar's back because listen to that pop and look at all these YouTube views, and we're going to sell so many tickets to a John Cena Brock Lesnar match. It's like, okay, it is all about that. Like, there's no lying and pretending that it's not about bottom line and ratings, and that's also not really a shocking thing to say. Like, it won't come as a surprise to anyone that the billion-dollar company is putting profits first. It's just, you know, you get to a point where you kind of can't filter things out anymore. Like, you can't keep the blinders up for certain things. Like, I was pretty disappointed when CM Punk went to Saudi Arabia and did everything there after how outspoken he had been about it in the past. I would have liked more insight into the decision that he made and why he had felt like, okay, now is time, I can go do this. And we didn't get that. We just got, he just, yep, and went over there and played the hits and did what he was told, and that was that. And that was disappointing to me as a fan of CM Punk's. That I would have liked a little bit more explanation. Not that I was owed it, but given how outspoken he had been and how strongly he stands on his principles typically with things, I was disappointed. And this is like the entire company doing that, where it's like, okay, now I don't know that I'm ever going to spend money on WWE things again, whether that's merch or cards or going to shows. I'm going to continue watching it and talking about it because I enjoy it, and I enjoy the community that it has kind of helped me put together here. I say it all the time, but I did not expect ever to have this many followers, subscribers, whatever you want to say. Like, it blows my mind. And maybe, you know, not everyone watches everything or listens to everything. That's totally fine. I'm more than anything just blown away that many people are willing to hang out for a few minutes and take a chance. So I enjoy that, and I value that, and I think that's also going to be a good chance for me to look into and learn more about some other companies that I don't necessarily follow as closely. Obviously WWE is the biggest one in the States, in the world. They are the worldwide company right now. AEW is the second biggest in the United States. And then there's so many other things that I just don't watch because there's so much time that you have to dedicate towards watching those two companies and keeping up. It's 4 nights a week if you watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and Dynamite. And that, you know, that's a lot of investment, not including pay-per-views, live events, Saturday night's main events, all those other things. But I don't think I would be able to sit here and just do straightforward WWE stuff if I didn't also bring light to other companies and things. I cannot just talk about WWE headlines without looking into more. And so my plan moving forward is to dive into multiple companies, including Stardom, New Japan, maybe a little bit more TNA, even though that's kind of WWE at this point with their relationship, as well as CMLL and some more of those. Maybe I'll, you know, Ring of Honor is pretty AEW adjacent at this point with Tony Khan booking both of the shows. But the point is, I don't want to just talk about WWE straightforward because it would feel like ignoring a lot of the things that are going on. And so the goal is to cover that stuff, cover WWE, because it is something that all of us watch. But at the same time, learn more about some of these alternative companies, put that information out there for anyone who has hit that tipping point where maybe they want AEW and something else that they can use to fill a WWE void. Maybe they've hit their breaking point. I think that's totally understandable and totally respectable. And then at the same time as well, anything that happens real world with WWE as far as that news goes, kind of bring a little more light to that and not gloss over it as much as maybe I have done in the past. So I kind of think that's the best way I can put all of my thoughts out there. And you know, the weirdest thing about all of this is up until that point that Brock Lesnar had come out. The Cena Cody match was fantastic. That main event was incredible. It's like 40 plus minutes. It was John Cena's longest main event, I think they said, or longest match since like 2015 or later. Like, he showed up to work that match, and they had an incredible match. But the thing I was going to say is the whole of SummerSlam just was weird. Like, it just wasn't coherent and cohesively good. It was like, oh, this match was cool. Wow, that match was really good. This match was fine. There was no, like, I don't know if this, like, giant inflation of wrestling shows and wrestling weekends and doing 2 nights is what's to blame. But it didn't feel like a big summer spectacle. It felt like every other WWE show now. Everything felt exactly the same. It did not feel like I was watching a big special event to blow off summer's biggest storylines as we head in towards, believe it or not, shockingly, the end of the year. So I don't know. I don't know what's to blame for that. I don't know if it's the fact that every show now follows the same structure with showing people walking in and setting up the storylines. I don't know if it's the fact that there's commercials and sponsors for every single match, in between every single match, during the matches now. It all just feels like you're being beaten over the head with product placement now, more than you are seeing matches and listening and watching stories be told. And I don't know what it is. Like, I've been trying to figure this out. Like, Michael Cole is probably the best ring announcer WWE has ever had, or the best commentator WWE has ever had. He's been kind of, like, unbearable the last few weeks or month or so, and I don't know if that's just me, but he's, like, making so many mistakes at such a rapid rate lately. Like, names are wrong, moves are wrong, this is missed, this is, like, backwards, and, like, he just, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know. It feels like there's people in his ear again that are putting the pressure on to do things. And he's gotten so used to, like, the laid-back way that he had been doing things with Pat McAfee that, like, he's in this weird middle ground of both. And that kind of makes it weird, too. Like, the big moments don't feel as big because you've got Graves and Michael Cole talking right over it, or Michael Cole getting the name wrong, or you know... Like, there was multiple moments in the Night 2 women's triple threat title match where, like, Io Sky drop-kicked Rhea Ripley and he'd be like, down goes Naomi. Oh, the champion's reeling. And it's like, what? And Wade Barrett is, like, trying to correct him and keep things moving. And it's just weird. I don't know. It all adds up to just being this weird, like, okay, I'm watching the show. Okay, it's SummerSlam now because everything says SummerSlam. Okay, it's Raw now, and, like, Raw looks exactly the same. And I don't know. That might, again, just be a me problem at this point. But it really... Something about what TKO has done over this last year, or half a year, has really dialed everything into where it feels just like so much sameness happening. And it's a great disservice to a lot of these matches and a lot of these wrestlers. Because you had multiple matches just getting silence for the most part, or for long stretches. In particular, the Becky Lyra Valkyria match comes to mind, because it was a longer match. They did get plenty of time, and it was a weapons match. It was brutal, and it was long. But, like, there were multiple points where it felt like the crowd was just, like, on their hands, and it's like, you're paying, you know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for these ticket packages for the weekend. Like, what are we doing? Like, you're not there to go crazy and cheer the entire time? And I also thought that was kind of funny because it happened with Jade and Tiffany, and it happened with the women's tag team title match for a little bit before they got going. And it's just like, you know, probably the same people that are online saying give the women more time and book them stronger and what are we doing. Then you go watch the shows and you're quiet because you spent all your energy in the first match, or because, you know, you're like, oh, this is actually kind of long now. And I don't know. It just, everything feeds into everything. And so there was a lot of stuff throughout both nights that I enjoyed a lot. I think night 2 was by far the stronger top to bottom card, but there were plenty of things to enjoy across both. It's just crazy to think how overshadowed it all got in an instant by, you know, everything that happened at the end of night 2. So, I don't know. I thought the main event of night 1 with Gunther and CM Punk was very good. I think Gunther is on another level right now. What a bummer to hear that he's going to have to get something done for his nose to fix his sinus. and he's going to be out indefinitely, reportedly, because he is absolutely one of, if not the best wrestler in the company right now in terms of presentation, in match quality, and storytelling, and just everything he's doing is great. He pulled a good match out of Goldberg a few weeks ago. I think it's just something where he has gone on underrated for a long time, and I thought that CM Punk match was great. I thought Seth Rollins cashing in was done perfectly. Seth maintaining that he's hurt, having everyone say that he's hurt, had Becky lie, had his daughter lie, had everyone in on it. I thought that was extremely well done. I think it might be like, this is it. You can't do this again now for anyone, because at that point you're just going to have all sorts of people speculating that like injuries aren't real, and I think that's a timeline you don't really want to mess with. I don't really think you want to get into that all the way, but to use it for someone like Seth Rollins to foil something like CM Punk's big moment is like the perfect execution of it, and I'm really happy for Seth, and I hope that this brings this group that he has some direction to kind of really get it focused, because they're dominating these shows weekly on Raw, but it feels like they don't like have a set agenda or objective. It's just coming out and beating people up and like talking about how they're the future and they're the now. And now Seth with the belt hopefully sets some new direction. I do also have a few headlines and things I wanted to talk about that are WWE related. It is a very WWE heavy show. WWE Speed, you may remember their show that was previously only available on Twitter/X. That is gone now. They have apparently not been filming new episodes since the end of June. The titles have disappeared, and that is supposedly not coming back. The report was that WWE and X did not renew the contract. I don't know why. To be completely honest, I was not a regular viewer of WWE Speed, so I can't speak too much on the quality of the matches or anything about it. I just think it's odd to drop something that was so heavily promoted right in the middle of it, basically. But it also kind of speaks to how separate it's been. I don't even think they were allowed to have the Speed titles on the other shows because of their contractual agreements. So, you know, at the end of the day, like, people aren't going to care if they don't see it all the time. And if people don't know to go to Twitter and watch it or see the belts and, oh yeah, that's right, that's a thing. I just think you're fighting a losing battle at that point if you're not using everything in your wide arsenal to advertise it and to promote it. And then there was another really interesting thing that came out last week about women in WWE in particular, and their thoughts of maybe leaving the wrestling industry when their contracts are up and going the OnlyFans route. This is because there are all sorts of reports stating that Elena Black, formerly known as Cora Jade, she recently announced that she was stepping away from wrestling for the rest of the year because negative comments and things online have kind of like beaten her mental health down to the point that she wants to just take a break. I think the way she put it in her post announcing it was like she loves wrestling, but she needs to take a break to make sure she actually loves wrestling, because the stuff she's hearing on a constant daily basis is kind of just beating that out of her. And that's, you know, that's awful. And then there's also a report at the same time that says she's made more on OnlyFans in 6 months or whatever it launched after she released than than most women in wrestling right now, or at least in WWE, outside of like the top few names. So people are starting to look at it as a viable exit strategy, and I'm wondering if, you know, not to throw a ton of conjecture out here, but I'm wondering if things like the recent political statements that WWE has been doing are going to push more of those wrestlers out to that career path, to that option. If they're kind of thinking, okay, well, I don't really love how this is going, and you can kind of see where things are headed. And I think it's been a lucrative choice for just about every wrestler that's gone that route after being released or once they hit the independent scene. So I understand that side of it for sure. I think there's always going to be fans that make up a market for that. And so I don't know. I think it's interesting to see it talked about to this legitimate of a point where you have like multiple wrestling organizations and outlets basically confirming it and saying like, yeah, this is what a lot of these women are thinking about doing. So I'll be interested to see, like, as contracts start to come up and as people start to have to make these tough decisions, if it actually is something that, you know, we're going to see a lot of women leaving WWE and going that route, whether it's independent bookings and something like that, and an account like that. I don't know. We'll see. But really interesting. I thought it was an interesting look at, like, hey, we don't really want to, like, batter our bodies nonstop, week in and week out, and then also be subjected to just the most heinous things online for no reason. I think I can understand that for sure. So we'll see what happens with that. But I thought that was really interesting. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is WWE Unreal. My wife and I, she's been watching it with me. We are like 3 episodes in so far, and I've enjoyed it. I read a report from Dave Meltzer that said that the goal with WWE Unreal overall is to make Triple H like the Dana White, but of WWE. And so Unreal is a chance to get him more front and center in the camera and make him more of a figurehead, and kind of start to shape things around him in that Dana White vein. And I don't know if I believe that. That feels extremely believable, but also at the same time, like, it feels like something that's just being made up by a detractor as well. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Triple H wants to be the man going around and doing all these things, and he's the, the face of WWE to an extent, especially as you see these stars, these older stars, kind of transition into part-time. John Cena is about to retire. He's in the middle of his retirement tour right now. So it wouldn't surprise me if the thought is, hey, as these legends start to wind down their careers, let's make Triple H more of the figurehead, because then you slot people in around him, but he remains the focal point. I just don't think that that's a viable way to go about wrestling like it is in UFC. I don't even honestly think it's the most viable thing in UFC. I think people are getting to the point where, like, they don't need Dana White's opinion on things. They want their fighters to fight. Like, they want to see their favorite fighters fight. So I think it would just get to that same point if they tried it in WWE. But I thought that was interesting too. I thought it was a weird thing for Meltzer to specifically call out and point to. But overall, I think the show is fine. I see a lot of what people are saying as far as, like, they're really going all out towards showing you how everything is done. And to that end, it kind of feels fake, almost like it's like they're going too far over to show you. I will say the one thing that has stood out to me the most, though, is what a good person Abyss seems to be now in his role as a producer. That dude seems to care so much about his job and the people he works with and the wrestlers he works with, and making sure they have a good match that's as issue-free as possible. There was something in the first episode or second episode where he's producing the Netflix debut, and Seth and Punk are wrestling in the main event, and they go like a minute and a half or 2 minutes over, and Bruce Pritchard is like standing there staring at Abyss, like staring daggers at him, and Abyss is like in the headset, like, guys, come on, we gotta go. And like the match finally ends, and he's apologized, like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, I did everything I could. And Bruce Pritchard's like this, like, it's fine, yeah, you did what you could. Like, there's never been someone that's been more of like the energy of like a don't you know who I am type than Bruce Pritchard in this show. I cannot believe how much of a dickhead he looks like with some of these things, to the point that, like, even as everyone's celebrating afterwards and celebrating a successful huge Netflix debut, Abyss is like, I'm sorry, I really tried to get those 2 minutes back, and I really tried to, they cut some things out, so like obviously we got some stuff done. And William Regal has to walk over and be like, you're fine. Triple H isn't mad. It was a great show. You're fine. And like, it's just, that type of thing feels like a more real look into things. And I think some of the wrestling stuff, like for the wrestlers themselves, it's a good look into things. But overall, I think some of it just feels like it has to be like a little guided, like, okay, now we're going to talk about this, or now we're going to do this, so it looks really good because we don't have enough talking about, person A or person B. So I'll be interested to see. Like I said, I haven't finished all of it yet. I'll do more on it when I actually finish watching the show. But so far, that's kind of been my early reaction to it. Is it just feels like they're trying so hard to put things out there that it has to be in some way scripted. But I think that's it. I have a note here that says WWE wants more Jelly Roll. I don't know if that's still true after that match actually happened. I read that on Friday before SummerSlam and wrote that down. I don't know if they're going to want that. I don't think Jelly Roll really lit the world on fire with his performance outside of that incredible table spot where Logan Paul just splashed through him on the outside through the announce table. Like, that was amazing. Shout out to Jelly Roll for being dedicated enough to train, lose all of that weight, and take crazy bumps like that. But, like, as far as the rest of the match, he did not move like, like a natural athlete would. And maybe that's something that comes in more time, but there was a report that WWE wants him back by like early 2026, which screams like Royal Rumble surprise appearance. But I don't know if that's actually going to happen. I don't know if it should happen. I think shout out to him. But then, like, almost immediately after this war they went through, where they lost, Randy Orton and Jelly Roll lost to Drew and Logan, he's, like, being interviewed backstage, watching the main event, and, like, I don't know, it just felt like they, like, immediately were like, alright, let's go back to Jelly Roll here, and it's like he wasn't selling the injuries or the grueling nature of the match. He was there the next night, ringside, just hanging out. And I don't know. Obviously they care a lot about these celebrity crossovers and these celebrity appearances, and they're not gonna stop. If there's one thing that we can be sure of, you're seeing 8 Netflix people in the crowd every Raw. They take as much time as they can to show you all the famous people that are there for that night. I do not think that's going away anytime soon. It's just that, it's an unfortunate thing when so many people in matches get left off of the card, and then there's something like that where it's like, no matter how this match goes, they're going to want him back because he's going to get eyes and mainstream media attention, and that's what matters more than SummerSlam having, a bunch of classic great matches on it. And I don't know. That, there's a whole thing to go into with these splitting of the shows into multiple weekends for multiple shows. Royal Rumble is one that's being talked about for it. Survivor Series, Money in the Bank. I don't know how true any of that is, so I'm going to wait and probably talk about that more on the next episode because I don't know. Honestly, it's kind of just like hearsay at this point. Probably pretty accurate hearsay, but until more people start to kind of confirm it, I don't really want to go too deep into it. But I think that's everything. I think that's probably more than enough at this point, honestly. It's like I said, I'm recording this on a Monday. This will be up Tuesday morning, and AEW Dynamite is Wednesday if you are looking for an alternative based on everything that has happened over this weekend. Like I said at the start, I don't blame anyone for looking for that. I think where I'm at with it is what I mentioned before, where, not talking about it with any sized platform or anything that I've been lucky enough to slowly build up would be a disservice. So, in addition to talking about everything that happens with the shows, I want to keep up and keep informed with everything that's going on outside of that as well, because I feel like anything else would be kind of just letting them off of the hook and going on being distracted by like the shiny thing. So apologies for the longer show, apologies for the heavier stuff, but it is, a heavy time for a lot of WWE fans right now, and probably a lot of the performers too. And so I'm sorry for anyone that, has had this become such a contentious thing to them, and you go from enjoying a wrestling show to now grappling with, like, should I just stop watching altogether? Should I stop supporting? Obviously, we know how important WWE and wrestling is to so many of the fans, and so I can only imagine that it's impacting a lot of people in these last few days. And so to anyone that's being impacted like that is hearing this, I am so sorry that, something that's supposed to be a fun escape has become a point like this where, you're stuck, confronted with these hard truths and these bad things. So I hope anyone dealing with that is able to find the resolution that brings them the most peace, the most comfort, and the ability to continue enjoying the thing that they love, whether it's professional wrestling, whether it's a specific company. I just hope that people are able to continue to find that escape from pro wrestling in some way, shape, or form. But that is going to be it for me today. I appreciate anyone watching, listening. The email address is in the description if you want to send anything or comment on YouTube if you're watching there. Again, thank you so much. I hope everyone has had a good start to their week. Enjoy the rest of the week, and I will see you very soon.